Let's have a look at how we adjust plate prices then. So under options, you can see, as well as basic rates, where we can just change individual items and click save. We have the options for plate prices. Now this will write the information into the prices.mdb database. So you can see we've got some information on the right here, and we've got this little prompt here that says double click a row. So let's have a look at this one, zinc sheet. We've only got 2 thicknesses here at the moment, and these are for silencers. So note here it tells us that negative 101 and 102 and below are for silencers. So if we want to use sheet rather than plate that is welded, we can add more rows here by adding a row. Essentially we would leave these alone. -2 is for fiberglass, so with various thicknesses, and that would be for things like fiberglass inlet cones, if those are available to you. Again, we've got price per kilograms. Now this cut hours per meter here can essentially be ignored. It may be implemented in the future, but just leave that alone. So let's have a look at Weldox 700. Now this is often called Bisloi 80 in Australia, and it has other equivalent names throughout the world. So if we know that this material is equivalent to Bisloi 80, and we'd rather say Bisloi 80, we can type in Bisloi 80 here and say apply, and it will update it. Of course, we must make sure that we don't apply that name to something else like 304L stainless. And if we say apply, then we get a prompt. Apply the new name to the old material Weldox 700. And we've got a little note here to one with equivalent properties. So we must make sure the properties are the same. So I'll say no. And as I move off it then, double click that one, Weldox 700, it stayed as Weldox 700. Okay, so that's simple enough. So now let's have a look at this ID of 1. Now ID 1, material ID 1, is the equivalent of a grade 250 steel plate. So that is often termed mild steel, but it does have a minimum yield of 250 MPa. And Centrix uses material ID 1 as its default. So it will default to ID of 1 unless there are some other special settings within the database. So let's have a look at material ID 1. So you notice that we've got a labour rate factor, which really should stay as 1 because it is the default material. And we've got a scrap factor. So every time we calculate a plate price, then the price here per kilo is multiplied, the total area is calculated by Centrix, and then we have the scrap factor multiplied and the price per kilo multiplied to give us the total price. So that's the weight, scrap factor, price per kilo. Now the simplest way to update this price is to simply apply a factor. So all you need to get is looking at these different thicknesses. Most of these are usually the same, but you can have different ones depending on how your suppliers price these particular sheets in different thicknesses. So the simplest way is to use a factor first to convert it to your local currency. So that might be, it could be any sort of factor, it might be 5, and you simply say apply a factor of 5, and you say yes, and it's done. Then if you want to do further adjustments, you can double click on an individual price. Let's say that might be 5, that might be 4.9, and then you finally save it. And there it is. So now if you go to Selma 350, we can see that that's a price per kilo has not been changed, and going back to our grade 250 material, it's been updated. So it's as simple as that. So we just go through all these different materials. 304 price per kilo. Again, we apply a factor. You might even use that same sort of factor throughout to get you started to convert the price per kilo to your local currency. We can delete rows. For example, in 304, let's assume we cannot get 1.5 or 1.6 for whatever reason from our suppliers. We can delete that particular row. I'll say no because I want to keep it in. And we can add a row. So let's have a look back at the grade. Yes, we've got 4mm, 5mm, 6mm, 8mm, 2.5, etc. If we wanted to add a particular thickness, which we might do, let's say in stainless steel or one of these more exotic stainless steels, which may come in something like 3.7. So we'd say add a row, we'll put in the thickness of 3.7, and it clearly tells us this is for SAF 2205. We can put in our price per kilo here, and our cut hours per metre, which, as I've already said, doesn't really matter too much at this stage, and we'll say apply. And there we've now got a 3.7mm. Now I'm going to delete that row because I'm not sure if I can get this in Australia, so I just delete it again. Okay, and it's as simple as that. So that's how you customize all these plate prices.